had always thought fasting was just something people did out of tradition, something religious folks, devout people, or those desperate for a breakthrough clung to when they had nothing left to try. In my younger years, I saw fasting as a ritual from a bygone era, something old-fashioned, something that belonged to stricter days when people feared God more than they loved Him. I believed in God, yes. I attended church. I read my Bible, though not as often as I should have. I said my prayers, usually in the quiet moments before bed or in church on Sundays. But fasting, it seemed extreme. I saw friends and even family members go on fasts from time to time, skipping meals, spending long hours in prayer, and I would smile politely, maybe even offer a word of encouragement. But deep inside, I questioned them. Quietly, of course, never out loud. I wondered if they were overdoing it, if they were starving themselves to win God's attention. Secretly, I thought, why would God care if I skip a few meals? He knows my heart, doesn't He? He knows I love Him in my own way. So, I never fasted seriously. Maybe a day or two here and there, mostly for health reasons, or when the church called for it during special events. But it was never a deep spiritual commitment. It never pierced me deeply. I never truly sacrificed. And life went on. I raised my children, loved my family, did my best to be a good person. I tried to be kind, generous, and faithful. Yet, as the years went by, I couldn't shake a subtle emptiness that lingered beneath the surface of my life. A quiet hunger, not of the body, but of the soul. Still, I ignored it. I told myself it was normal, part of growing older, part of life, until the day everything changed. It happened without warning. I remember the morning clearly. I woke up feeling a strange tightness in my chest, like a weight pressing down that I couldn't shake off. I thought it was nothing at first, just age catching up with me, perhaps something I ate the night before. I brushed it aside, poured my usual cup of tea, and went about my morning routine. But as the day wore on, the pain deepened, sharp and insistent. Breathing became a struggle, and a wave of fear rushed through me like ice water in my veins. My hands trembled as I reached for the phone to call for help, but my fingers failed me. The room began to spin, and darkness edged my vision. My last thought before I slipped away wasn't of fear, it was of regret. Not for the years gone by, not for the mistakes I had made, but for the quiet voice that had whispered to me time and again, urging me toward deeper devotion. The voice I had ignored, the voice that had called me to fast, not for tradition, not for duty, but for intimacy with the living God. And then everything went black. I thought that would be the end, but it was only the beginning. When my eyes opened, I expected darkness, I expected nothingness, a void, an empty end to an ordinary life. Instead, what I saw was so overwhelming, so vast, so utterly magnificent that my breath caught in my chest, or at least what felt like my chest, because I understood instantly that I was no longer in my earthly body. I was somewhere far beyond anything I had ever imagined. The atmosphere wasn't like the air I had breathed all my life. It felt alive, rich with a presence so overwhelming I could feel it seeping into every part of me. It filled me with both awe and dread at the same time, like standing before a mighty storm while knowing there was no place to hide. And then I saw Him, Jesus. It wasn't like the paintings, not the gentle, softly glowing figure I'd seen in churches or books. No, this was the King of Glory, radiating light so intense, so pure. It exposed every hidden thought, every secret motive, every part of me I had never dared to examine too closely. His gaze locked onto me, and in that instant I felt everything inside me laid bare. My years of quiet faith, my polite church attendance, my occasional prayers, all of it was visible to Him. But so too were my hesitations, my complacency, my dismissals of the deeper things He had longed for me to embrace. I trembled under His gaze, tears filling my eyes unbidden. I wasn't even sure if I could speak, but my soul, my very spirit, cried out within me, "Lord, I thought I knew You. I thought I was walking faithfully." He spoke, and His voice was unlike anything I had ever heard. It wasn't just sound, it was truth itself, resonating through the very core of my being. "You knew me, but you did not seek me deeply. You desired comfort over communion. You chose convenience over consecration. The words were not cruel, they were not shouted, but they cut deeper than any blade ever could. I felt them slice through the years of lukewarm devotion I had cloaked myself in, through every excuse I had made to stay comfortable, to stay safe, to stay distant. My knees buckled beneath me and I fell, weeping, not from fear of punishment, but from the crushing weight of realization. I had missed so much. You did not understand the power of fasting, Jesus continued, his eyes never leaving mine. You believed it was about denying the flesh alone, but you did not see the door it could have opened to my presence. You did not see the intimacy I longed to share with you. Images flashed before my eyes, times in my life when I had felt a subtle nudge to fast, to draw nearer to him in sacrifice and focus. Quiet invitations that I had ignored or brushed aside with worldly reasoning. I'm too old, I had thought. I have medical conditions. God understands. And yes, he had understood. He had known my limits, my frailty, but what he showed me now was that fasting had never been about suffering for the sake of suffering. It had been an invitation to step out of the noise of life, to silence the demands of the flesh, and to feast on him. You believed fasting was about food, he said softly, but it was about hunger for me. The revelation shook me to the very core of my being. I saw it clearly now. Fasting wasn't just a discipline. It was a divine strategy, a weapon, a way to tear through the veil of distraction and taste the fullness of his glory. And I had missed it. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, "I didn't know, Lord. I didn't understand." His gaze remained steady, filled with both sorrow and fierce, unrelenting love. You did not listen when I called you deeper. My heart broke beneath the weight of his words. The opportunities I had wasted, the moments of closeness I had forfeited, all laid before me in painful, undeniable clarity. And yet, even in this moment of grief, I could feel his love wrapping around me, not as a shield from truth, but as a force compelling me to finally see, fully and completely, what I had missed, what fasting truly was, and what it could have done in my life. As I knelt before him, the weight of his words continued to settle over me like a mantle too heavy to bear. I could feel my heart breaking in ways it never had in my earthly life. The grief wasn't just over the wasted years, it was over the wasted closeness, over the missed moments of intimacy that could have been mine if only I'd understood. Then, without a word, Jesus extended his hand. The moment he did, something profound happened. It wasn't like anything I had ever seen or experienced before. My spirit seemed to rise outside of itself, and suddenly I was swept up as though transported through realms not bound by time or space. He showed me visions clear and vivid, not imagination but living truth. I saw believers on earth, ordinary men and women, booing in hidden places, their stomachs empty but their spirits burning with holy fire. I saw prayers rising like incense, carrying with them power and authority I had never grasped while I lived. Their fasting was not a work of desperation. It was not a hunger strike to gain favor. It was a deep spiritual hunger, calling them into deeper waters of communion with him. Every meal skipped was not lost. It was an offering laid at his feet, an invitation for him to fill the spaces left empty by the denial of the flesh. I saw the veil between the physical and the spiritual realms thin until it was nearly gone. Where fasting and prayer met together, heaven seemed to open, and angels were dispatched, assignments released, strongholds broken. I watched as demonic forces shrank back in terror from the ground where believers fasted in humility and hunger for God. Tears welled in my eyes as the full reality struck me. I had thought fasting was about depriving the body. I had not understood it was about feeding the soul. Jesus spoke again, his voice as steady and piercing as ever. When you fasted in pretense, it was hollow. But when my children fast in surrender, they feast upon my presence. The weight of that truth nearly undid me. I thought of all the times I had complained of weariness, of inconvenience, of hunger. I thought of the moments I had prioritized comfort over pursuit. He showed me moments in my life where he had gently invited me to draw near to him through fasting, yet I had turned away for the sake of momentary satisfaction. I saw what could have been. doors that remained closed because I had not pressed through in prayer and fasting, breakthroughs I had prayed for half-heartedly, never realizing that fasting was the key that would have unlocked them. Healing, deliverance, clarity, all within reach, all delayed by my unwillingness to step beyond convenience. My heart ached as Jesus continued to reveal the beauty and power of fasting. Fasting tears down the walls of distraction, he said. It silences the noise of the world and tunes the soul to hear my whisper. And I realized, painfully, that I had spent much of my life straining to hear him through the clamor of daily routine, never understanding that fasting would have cleared the air like a storm washes clean the skies. There was no anger in his voice, only deep sorrow. Sorrow not just for me, but for so many others like me who had lived their faith shallowly, missing the depth he had always longed to share with them. It wasn't about condemnation. It was about what had been lost, what could have been. And as he showed me this, my tears fell like rain, not just tears of regret, but of awe, because even in this moment of judgment and truth, I could still see the love in his eyes, a love that had pursued me all of my life, a love that had called me to fast, not to punish me, but to draw me closer to him, closer to the heart of the Savior, who had always longed to be my daily bread. Even as tears continued to stream down my face, I felt something shift. The visions faded, but the weight of them remained, heavy and undeniable. I had been shown the truth, not just about fasting, but about the depth of relationship the Lord had always desired with me. I felt it settle deep into my spirit as though his revelation had engraved itself upon my very being. Jesus looked at me with eyes that were fierce yet tender. "There is more," he said, his voice both thunderous and intimate at once. "More than what you have known, more than what you have lived. I do not desire your performance. I desire your heart." Those words pierced me even more deeply than everything I had seen before. He had not wanted empty gestures. He had not desired religious routine, nor hollow sacrifices for the sake of appearances. No, he had longed for true surrender, for the kind of hunger that fasting was meant to awaken. A hunger not just for answers or blessings or breakthroughs, but for him alone. I fell to my knees, not because I was forced, but because my heart could not bear to remain standing in the presence of such overwhelming love and holiness. "Lord," I cried, my voice hoarse with sorrow, "I see it now. I see it all so clearly. I see what I missed, what I neglected, what I could have had with you." His gaze softened, and for a moment it felt as if his light enveloped me entirely, wrapping me in a love deeper than any ocean, stronger than any storm. "There is still time," he said gently. "I am sending you back." Those words stunned me. My breath caught in my chest, my thoughts reeling. Go back, return to life? I had thought my journey had ended, that I had crossed the final threshold. But his mercy still pursued me, even here, even now. "You will go," he continued, "and you will not keep this revelation for yourself. Tell them, tell my people that fasting is not a burden, but a gift, not a punishment, but a pathway to my presence. Tell them that I am waiting for them in the secret place, longing to fill them with what the world can never provide." My spirit swelled with urgency, with purpose, unlike anything I had ever known in all my 65 years of life. Every excuse I had once made now felt so small, so meaningless. My age, my discomfort, my busyness, none of it mattered compared to the priceless treasure of knowing him more deeply. He stepped closer, and I felt his presence surround me like a consuming fire that did not destroy but purified. "Go," he commanded, his voice filled with authority and love, "and teach them to hunger for me more than for the things of this world. Teach them to fast, not as a ritual, but as a pursuit of my heart." Tears blurred my vision as my heart responded with a resounding, "Yes, I will, Lord, I will." Then, in an instant, everything shifted. The brilliance of his presence faded, and I felt myself being drawn back, as though carried by unseen hands through the very fabric of time and space. The warmth of his glory lingered around me, like the final embrace of a dear friend, and then I awoke, gasping, trembling, alive. My body, though frail, felt filled with new life, new fire, new purpose. I knew what I had to do. I knew why I had been given this second chance. This was not a story I could keep to myself. It was a call, a commission from the very throne of heaven to awaken the sleeping hearts of his people, to tell them that fasting is not about denying the body, but about feeding the soul, not about loss, but about gain, the gain of his nearness, his voice, his power flowing through their lives. And so I speak now, not as the same woman I once was, but as a witness to the glory and truth of the King. Fasting is not an obligation, it is an invitation to the feast of his presence. And I will never, for the rest of my days, take it lightly again.